Hey guys, so today what I want to take you through is a little walkthrough on how to get started in music if you are like me, that you don't have a big background in music theory, or you didn't go to music school, or you didn't really study music the normal way. So there are tools out there that will allow you to be a musician if you feel like that's your calling, and that's something that I have felt for a long time, but as technology has allowed me more and more to do it, I've been able to make music that is more expressive of what I really feel, and not only based on the limitations that I had based on my technical skills. So with that being said, I would like to get started on something pretty easy. I'm going to use Ableton. You can probably do this in most software nowadays, but this is very easy to do in Ableton, and I know my way around this program best, so this is what we will use today. I want you to think about things from the point of view of making music somewhat mathematically at first. Let it be kind of like a throw everything at the wall moment, and then later we can go into sculpting and finding the artistry and the emotion and all that kind of stuff, okay? So let's get started. Okay, so basically you're gonna open up a MIDI file by double clicking here. And what I wanna do is something very simple. So I'm gonna go up to the top here and I'm gonna decide what key I wanna be in. So I'll do key F and I'll be in a minor scale, okay? Now, I'm going to put some notes here at random, and I'm gonna do it on a 5-bar loop. Well, you know what? I'll do it on a 3-bar loop, and then I'll do something else. Now, all I'm really doing is thinking about how I want the notes to be in a way played out. And in a way that most music is about, like calling and answering. Also, sometimes the progression is going to be like, you know, up, down kind of thing. I'm literally speaking to you as if like music is not, you know, do, re, mi, okay? That's what I want to get across. So when you do this, okay, then what you can do, I'm going to give you a mix of like, what if you didn't have this software availability, what you could do. So if you take your 4 notes that you just did, and when you duplicate them, slide them up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 semitones, okay? And then duplicate that again. And if you're gonna be in like a minor, you're probably gonna be somewhere like 1, 2, 3 above the root note. But again, what you wanna do here is listen. We haven't even pressed play yet. We're just literally typing in notes. I want to do a 4-note chord, so I'll add a higher note as well. And then what I'll do, which is brilliant about Ableton, is I can go into here and I'll just fit it to scale. So if any of the notes were not in the scale of F minor, now they have snap to it. Also, I can just simply hit legato and everything will also go into its full length and form. Now, I haven't chosen what I'm going to put on the MIDI track yet, but one of the synths I have here is a Supernova, and to get into that, you basically, I'll show you as I'll make a little B-roll here, but basically you'll go into your program mode, you'll find what you're looking for, okay? And if you're looking for specifically something, let's say keys, pads, whatever, it's divided also into categories. So you can find like pad, okay? And now I'll just put it on like, let's say some kind of soft pad, literally very, very generic. And let's press play and let's see what we get here. So what you're seeing is the MIDI playing, but there is no connection to the hardware yet, okay? So for that to happen, you have to take an external instrument. In this case, I have one made already for the Supernova. Drag it in, and now the MIDI here will be talking to the external instrument. Now, I have that coming through a mixer here. Let me just make sure my settings are proper for a second, because I was doing another project. You'll hear it better now. So I mean, this is like, I didn't do anything. I like put in 4 notes, duplicated them, moved them around a little bit. So once I have a couple, chords going, this is something that is specific to my workflow, but what I like to do is basically, I like to print to audio basically right away. So if there's something that I like, I will take the audio from the MIDI in this case, and then I will record it in. And as I record it in, I can do things to it, but that'll stay hard baked into it. So let's say I'll let it play for 4 bars, whatever, and I have a bass. I can do other things. So let me catch it on the new one. I'll do something like this. And you'll see, I'm going to take it down to the end of that 4th bar coming up here. So when I loop it, it'll work out properly. So I was into what I was doing, right, from about bar 17. So I can pull this back. And then I was done at about bar 33. And that's like a pretty clean, let's say, beginning to what we got going on so far. Now, one of the things that's cool too is like, okay, we got that, right? So if I solo, you can see it's gonna play. But what's cool now is like, all right, that was cool. But I can do something like, again, take an arpeggiator, toss it on top of that MIDI file, go into my programs here, look for something that's not going to be, I need something plucky kind of, right? Like a bell, a lead, a bass could work. Let's do something like a hard lead, and let's just see something like this, what that ends up looking like. So let's see. Very simple, right? Now, that's not going to be what you're going to want, okay? So there's a bunch of different ways of doing something more spicy to that. You can mess with the style, okay? You can mess with the rate, okay? Also, finding the right sound is going to be something that's important. We'll play around with that a little bit, but let's just see for a second. So that's already kind of cooler. Now, you see what just happened? I did something working on something else, but something cool happened, like a happy accident, right? So when that kind of thing happens, if you're like trying to maybe get lucky again, what you want to do is set up a similar situation where you recreate the accident. What happened was, as the synth stopped, it hummed. right? Now, let me capture it again so I can go like. So again, the point here is like all this stuff is non-musical music, right? I mean, now, yeah, I did like that whole little bass line thing that basically was not that cool. But I have this thing that I ended up liking that is cool. I mean, there's even parts of the bass line. Look, oddly enough, the bass line too is kind of cool also. Like, look, if I just bring it together here for a second and crop it in real tight, you can see that that's that. But oh, sorry, I had the bass here at the end. My bad. The bass here at the end. If I just even play this. I mean, that's cool, right? We can even go like. So, again, like music that comes out of music, right? All I'm going to do is take that little sliver, loop it, right? And then from there, I mean, that could be the bass line. Who knows? Maybe it's not the bass line. But what it is like between that and this like super crazy kind of swell, I mean, I'm not putting my fingers on anything. We're not making music, right? We're painting music in a way. But I mean, it's like, the music part is like if you go all the way back to like Bach, I can just grab like anything, and I've studied music, okay? It's not that. It's like all that's been done. So what I'm trying to say is like, okay, well, how are you going to do anything new if you're doing everything the way that everyone always did it? You know, this has been done a long time too. This is not that new. I mean, it's new, kind of, not really. But like the point is if you haven't been around since maybe longer and you don't know about these things, I'm trying to get you up to speed, maybe a little. So anyway, again, you can load in a kit in most of DAWs, and you can simply just, look, for just simplicity's sake, I'll just put in, you know, 4 to the floor, very simple. Beat. And honestly, like you basically have most of a track with these couple elements that we got going on so far. Now, like I said, bass, you hear how the bass is like not really in sync, okay? So what I can do here, again, going back to like Dilla and stuff like that, you don't always need everything to be perfectly in sync. You can kind of mess a little bit with timing. So what I can do to get it into timing a little bit is I can go into the compressor, and if I put like a compressor on top of the bass line, and what I'll do is I'll sidechain it to the kick. What that'll do is, if I pull down the threshold, now when you do that, then all of a sudden, even if your bass line or whatever you want to do is not working perfectly, I mean, you can kind of make it to work. Does it work perfectly? No. What if, instead of putting that compressor on that bass line that was kind of wonky, let's take that same compressor, put it on that big sweep, right? Okay, and let's see what that sounds like. So I'm just going to let that be the bass for now. And again, so like, did I program a bass line? No. Did I come up with a bass line? Yeah, kind of, in a way. It's fine. For now, it's fine. And then later, if I want to do something else, I can do something else. The point is like, I'm still just basically getting going here. Now, what would probably be a good thing to do is, you know, some kind of harmony, some kind of stuff like that. We can do simply copying the same note pattern, okay? We can do, the easiest thing to do would be to bring everything an octave higher. Okay, and then if we do, so let me show you something else. So other stuff that is cool is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same notes, okay, and I'm going to put in another synth that is going to be the Cobalt, and the Cobalt, I'll show you what's cool about it in a second, but the Cobalt is hooked up to the microcosm, which makes it basically like very, very cool. So let's look for a sound, maybe, let's try that. So let's say bells, right? Now, check this out. So if you have this synth playing, right? What's really cool is you can mess with the algorithm, okay? One second. Quick review so that we are back to what we were doing. Now that you can hear the audio, this is where we are as of now. So remember, we had that pad that we did, bass line that's pumping with the sidechain compression. All that is still there, okay? And we put a kick as well. Now, what I was going to show you guys yesterday, but then I got interrupted, was that there is, you can make music with no money and download crack software, and probably a lot of you will do that, and I've done that like many, many years ago when I was getting started. But then over time, you put a little bit more money into your music and you buy stuff or whatever. And then you accumulate things, like I said, had things over time. But even used things don't cost a lot. Anyway, I have this thing, it's a cool synth, and I'm running it through a microcosm, which is a multi-effects pedal, which is super cool. And so again, with minimal ideas, you can still come up with something that is awesome. And what we're gonna do, I have a external instrument that is assigned, here it is, assigned to the Cobalt, and it's going that way, it's connected to USB. Now, the Cobalt is pretty cool because basically what it's doing is a sort of synthesis where it's like a kind of wavetable, but it's kind of like morphing waves in real time while you do. It's basically a virtual analog instrument. It just has more things going on. But what I want to do is play the MIDI through the modal. Okay. Okay, so I've taken the MIDI and I'm passing it through the Cobalt. Now the Cobalt, I'll solo it for a second so you can hear it better. I can pick a couple different sounds, whatever. Now, once I've come up with the sound that I like, okay, what I want to do, which is kind of cool, is, let me solo this again for a second. You can hear how it's already like really dreamy as it is, okay? If I go in, I'll show you guys. So if I go into the Cobalt, and you can see it has this thing called algorithm on it, where the wave is, you can change the algorithm that is basically the shape of the wave. And that also can be morphed so that it's moving around. And so now you're getting a sound that's moving in a very unique way. Also, I have this running through this thing called a microcosm. You guys like my keyboard? And the microcosm is like this crazy effects unit where when you add, I can add multiple effects to it, but in this case, if I add a little bit of reverb, you can hear I'm really sending the sound like into this spacey realm where it's like pretty cool. Also, I can affect the cutoff and other parameters, you know, like the shape of the actual ADSR or whatever. But this stuff like this is cool, right? So what I'll do now is I'll print this like I showed you guys before, okay? More stable. It's like one of those ticks. So anyway, the thing here that we'll do is I'll just make an audio file, okay? I'll have the audio file being served by the Cobalt, hit record, and I'm going to keep it in solo mode, okay? I'm also going to take down the microcosm for right now, and I'm going to start it kind of like without too many effects on it. As this begins to kind of build, okay, what will happen is it'll naturally kind of move around. Remember how we were saying the algorithm kind of does that anyway. But I'll just add a little bit of microcosm. And as that increases a little bit, you'll get more movement. And that'll keep the people who are listening interested. So you can see, I mean, it's subtle, but it's beautiful, right? So that again, I have this is going back into the idea that like I haven't even listened to the song together. I'm playing with paint. It's painting music, like I keep talking about. So what you'll do now is if you mute the Cobalt and listen to everything you got going on, it's like very ethereal, right? I can even put a sidechain on the I'll put a similar sidechain on that pad, this crystal pad thing that we made, and I'll do the same thing where I'll send it to the okay, sorry. I'll do the same thing where I'll put a compressor on the pad. I'll sidechain the compressor to the kick, and then when I sidechain it to the kick, what is it on 7 kick? I can again do the same thing. Lower the threshold, lift the gain a little bit, output. And now it's working in the song in a way that's a little bit more clear, but at the same time is rhythmic now, okay? So to fill this out, basically you could do so many things. I mean, again, I'm doing this for the basis of keeping you guys interested in making music or getting started in making music. But what you can do here, for example, is we'll duplicate this kick by just hitting D, okay? And then what we'll do is, let's get rid of all those other ones. We don't need those right now. And here we'll just take the kick and take it off, add a snare on the 2 and 4. We don't need a lot of extra bars because for right now we're just making things very simple. Again, we can take this and duplicate it straight across, and then all of a sudden now we have a kick and snare. You can do that again. So another thing that this is another thing I like to do too. I like to have all the drums on separate channels. Means that like I'll have a hi-hat on one single channel, I'll have a snare on another, a bass on the other. And that also for mixing is going to be really cleaner because you'll be able to also EQ the individual drum hits by themselves. That's super important. So what I'm doing now, just to quickly go through it, is again, I'm just taking the stuff that we've built and just by simply shifting it around a little bit. Again, this is like more of this painting with music as opposed to knowing what you're doing. Add a hi-hat, then you have a classic, kick, hat, snare combo. I won't take it further than this now. What the goal of this first part here is to kind of get you understanding what the ideas are of how to get started with making music, and also maybe getting you curious about some pieces of equipment and stuff like that. And going forward, we can spend more time on curating the different sounds, and then we can also look at the arrangement, and then also we can figure out how to make a final song. But for now, what I wanted to do is get you guys started, okay? So even with the little tips I gave you so far, paint in the notes, set it to a scale, duplicate, make compression part of the workflow, all little tips that can be useful, that are like a good starting point. And I'll meet you in part 2, and we can take this a little bit further.